that,
Sorry.
that's okay, that we're all born in the state of meditation. Because a lot of people, I often get asked the question, oh, Dean, do you meditate? And I said, well, no, I don't meditate, but I did meditate. In fact, I meditated for about 24 years before I came across the three principles. And then when I met Dr. Roger Mills, and I've only learned subsequently that this experience that I had isn't uncommon, and that many other people that have been regular or long-term meditators have had a very similar experience. I found that there really wasn't any reason to formally meditate anymore. In fact, I felt I couldn't, because on the first Wednesday after spending 2 days with Dr. Roger Mills, I went to the local Buddhist center and sat down to meditate, only to find that the experience I was having while sitting on cushions with a bunch of other people meditating was exactly the same as standing at the kitchen sink and washing up, or having a shower, or walking out in the countryside with a friend. The experience was the same. And so I saw, well, so that's the state of meditation as opposed to the practice or the act of meditation. And that's the state we were born in. It's our natural state. And of course, it's the state that we can very easily fall back into. That's the sort of the magic of this understanding, is where Sid's pointing us, he's pointing us back inside to that pure state of consciousness, that state of meditation. And it's a pretty nice state to be in. Pretty nice state to be in. And I think the magic that unfolds from falling back into that state, I think magic begins to unfold everywhere in our lives. So we can still go through seemingly difficult circumstances. And I know, I have a number of friends that are going through some quite challenging circumstances right now. And of course, there's the natural fluctuating nature of thought. So they're experiencing tough moments, and then in other moments, they're falling back into the bliss of consciousness and seeing the magic of the life we've been given. We don't get very long, so we really have to make the best of what we do have. I have 4 nephews, and they're all beautiful young men. I still call them boys. They're grown men, really, but they're gentlemen. They're really kind, gentle-hearted men. And I always tell them, I say, boys, I know that I've said this to you before, and I know your parents tell you this too, but life really is short. So, make the best of it, live a good life, and take the opportunities that life presents us with. I don't know if, probably most of you've noticed this, but life is always offering opportunities. It's just whether our eyes and ears are open, and whether our mind is actually quiet enough to actually hear and see what's unfolding before our very eyes. What a life, eh?
It's a funny thing about the meditation practice, because I tried many years because I thought that it was the way you had to go or do to find that inner peace. But for me, it was only more noise, because I couldn't work it out. I thought that I thought that I did it wrong, that it had to feel in a certain way, or I had to, experience some kind of extraordinary thing to be in the right state of mind of meditation. But the thing that I noticed when meeting the principles was that I didn't have to do anything. Actually, I had to stop looking, because every time I tried to find that place, I went further away from it. And and that was the paradox, you know, because suddenly, as you just said, Dean, I saw that when I was there cutting vegetables in my kitchen, or, you know, doing the dishes, or just occupied with my hands with something, or doing something I love, there it was, that very silent, peaceful place that I tried so hard to find, but I was just taking myself far and far away from. Um, and as you said, that is your birthright. It's what you're born with.
Yeah.
To know that you don't have to look for it, you have to actually stop looking for it, because there it was, just in front of my nose.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the things that Sydney Banks talked about a lot. You know, if you've watched any of his videos, you'll know that he does point towards this all the time, that in a way, when we attempt to meditate, we are missing the point, because we're already in that state. We've just forgotten. In fact, in the various schools of Buddhism, there is a school called the Pure Land School. And the Pure Land School say, well, look, everyone is already enlightened, but we've just forgotten. And that's kind of cute in a way, isn't it? That there's this deep state of consciousness that we have access to, and yet we've just forgotten. And that, I think, a lot of what that comes down to is our conditioning. You know, because the brain is so good at storing everything and anything. In fact, it does store everything we see, everything we hear, every book we've read, every newspaper, every magazine, every movie. It's all stored in there somewhere, even if we can't actually access it. It's all stored there. So there's an awful lot in the brain that we don't really need either. And I think that when you stop looking for a peaceful state of mind, you discover it's already there, because that's the only part that's missing. It's like the search for it is the thing that actually points us in the wrong direction. You know, Sid often talks about people going searching to the Himalayas, or looking for a guru somewhere to teach them the way to live the right way. And yet we all have that understanding in us from birth. As you said, Mia, it's our birthright. And I'm always astounded at how swiftly some people have a huge shift, that they don't even need to hear very much, and suddenly their life changes to back to our natural state. Now, some of you have heard me say this before. One of the examples I always give is a 14-year-old child. Now, I didn't counsel her, I didn't coach her. If you've read my book, you'll know the story. But imagine that all I actually did was write about 3 lines on a piece of paper, and that was enough to completely transform that young girl's life. In fact, I have the pleasure of still knowing her. She's 31 now. She's just got married this year, and they're trying for a baby. And she's a beautiful, beautiful human being, and still believes to this day, where would my life have gone if you hadn't walked past me in that exam room? She was in the lowest space that a human being can be, even though she was probably one of the brightest kids in the whole school. But intelligence isn't, if we look at the intellect, that's not really what's useful when it comes to living a good life, is it? It might help us get a career, a good job, and some good money, but it doesn't bring us any closer to the true source of happiness, which is, of course, always inside. I find it fascinating when I'm working with couples. Couples, when they see what they're doing within the context of their relationship. I remember in George Pransky's book, The Relationship Handbook, it's hilarious. He says, what traditional marriage guidance does is that it actually teaches the couple to communicate more effectively. Well, that's wonderful, but what it does is it teaches them how to communicate the things they're most upset about more effectively. So it doesn't really solve the issues that they're having between them as a couple. It probably exacerbates them, in fact. But when a couple looks in this direction, even if one of them can see it, it usually starts to make things easier for them. Because if one person gets calm and gets quiet and is prepared to walk away when the situation clearly isn't going to go anywhere productive, then you're halfway to solving marital problems. And what a beautiful thing that is, that people can actually start seeing the very thing in their partner that they fell in love with in the first place before they started letting other stuff get in the way in their minds. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah. It takes two to go to war.
It does. And it's funny because a friend of mine had posted something recently about someone insulting him or insulting a certain group of people, and I said, well, it's a bit like an argument. It takes two to have a response. And he said, no, if someone's being insulting, then therefore there's only one person that's doing the insulting, and then there's one person that's insulted. I said, but hold on a minute, you still have a choice whether to be insulted or not. You don't have to be insulted. You can see, which is something that I've been saying for a long time, that when somebody is aggressive or angry or upset, and if they're even using our name and they're giving us a verbal attack, all we're really seeing is that person's state of mind, aren't we? That's all we're really seeing. It doesn't really reflect on us at all, because what we're hearing is their state of mind. And if you think about it, for us as individuals, when we're in a kind, quiet, loving space, how do we act towards other people? We act likewise, with kindness, with love, with compassion. So we can know for certain that if someone is verbally attacking us, that they're clearly upset. They're in a not a good state of mind. And of course, that is the absolute wrong time to have a discussion when you're in that state of mind. You don't get anywhere. You don't achieve anything.
But that's the funny thing, because I think a lot of us, me, have been raised with the thing that it's not okay to go to bed angry, or you have to work it out if you have a disagreement, and it's not the best place to do it from, as you say, Dean, but little did we know. So it's a big misunderstanding, and it was so innocent, because every time I was caught up in that drama, I thought that the only way out was to talk about it with that person right now.
Yes.
So I didn't know any better, but thankfully we do now.
Well, that's it. And it's a return to, it's a recognition that everyone is doing the best they can, given their in the moment thinking. But it sets us both free if one of us can walk away and say, no, look, I can't do this now. I'm not in the right state of mind. Let's talk about it when we both feel better. And if you can do it, and let go of our, like what you're describing, Mia, is of course our conditioning, which I spoke about earlier. That's what we were taught to do, and that's what traditional psychology suggests is a, you know, they say arguing is healthy. I disagree. You can have a debate, sure, but I don't really think that arguing actually achieves anything, because even if someone in an argument gives in, when they walk away, they're not thinking, oh yeah, they won, I'm wrong. They're thinking something completely different, but they're just not saying it anymore. They've had enough. You know, no one wins. That's the thing with an argument. It's like war. No one really wins. Just lots of people get hurt. And when we're in a good state of mind, we don't want anyone to get hurt, do we? You know, within the context of a couple, these are the people that we're supposed to love deeply. And yet that is not, that kind of approach isn't coming from a place of love at all. It's it's coming from an agitated, upset mind. And it's not good for either of us to do that.
No, and the most amazing thing, and also what we want to talk to you about and point you to at the retreat, is that you already have that and you can always access it. And you're not like bound to feel anything with your circumstances, even though that someone is verbally attacking you, or you have somebody that wants to argue with you or something, that you are always free to access that peace inside you, or that place inside yourself where you can find that meditative state or peace or love, so you can meet that other person from a much nicer place. And it can be hard to see sometimes, but it is there, and just to be pointed continuously on that is always there is such a nice thing.
Yeah.
Please, if anybody has any questions or comments or wants to share their story or thoughts or anything, please do. You can just at the bottom of Zoom, there's a button called reactions. You can raise your hand there, and we would really love to hear what's on your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See your hand?
Daughter, you should unmute yourself.
Unmute. Okay, sorry. Hi, Dean, and hi, Mia, and thanks for your talk. I've listened to your podcast several times. I'm a huge fan of the way you tell how you perceive the three principles, and as Mia also know, I was with her earlier today in a webinar, and I'm in some really tough circumstances right now. And I was just wondering, what is your opinion about how one can deal with hard circumstances without getting negative thoughts? Because I find it really, really hard not to become negative when you have to deal with a lot of problems. So yeah.
Well, I think that the first thing I would say is that when you're right in the heat of something, I think most of us, to some degree, struggle to. You can't put it this way. You can't stop what's going to come into your mind anyway. Even if we wanted to, we can't actually stop the flow. It's like a moving body of water. You can't stop it. So but it's just, don't be worried about it. You know, we all have negative thoughts. It's that most of the time, most of us are sensible enough not to act on those negative thoughts. And so if you're not acting on them, then you've done no harm anyway, and you're not really doing any harm to anyone. I think I think the secret is that when we are able to remove ourselves from those difficult circumstances, I think it's then how long does it take us to recover? Sometimes it can be, really quickly, and sometimes some of those thoughts can linger. But again, don't worry, it happens to us all, and I think that it's important during those times, as best we can, to remember that all states of mind pass. That there's no such thing as a permanent state of mind. It's impossible. Because like I said, it's like the natural fluctuating nature of thought is like a moving body of water that you cannot stop. I often say it's like if you were standing, like when I was a kid, I don't know if any of you used to do this, I'd get in water in the summer and watch the little fish swimming around my legs. Now, I'm telling you, there's no way in the world that I could ever catch any of those fish with my hands, even if I wanted to. I'm not quick enough. And that's what thought's like. Thought is like a slippery fish. It's sliding all over the place. It's too quick. So it doesn't matter so much about the content of what we're thinking, whether it's negative or positive. It's more the case that when our mind gets quiet, it returns to what I call not just a pure state of consciousness, but a state of neutrality, beautiful neutrality. So often when we use that word in English, people think of it, oh, neutral is neither good nor bad. It's not. It's a beautiful state. To be neutral to conflict is far more beautiful than wanting to be engaged in the conflict. Does that help a little bit? Yeah.
I was just, when you were talking, Dean, I got that picture that it's like when we're caught up in that difficult state of mind, we're looking so hard for the beautiful state of mind that neutral looks like not attractive at all. But but actually neutral is the place we're looking for, because we don't need to have it in a certain way. We just need to know that we will experience both hard times and good times, and negative feelings and beautiful feelings. But the thing is that the neutral place is that we don't care about whether it's that place or that place. And I'm not saying that you should be happy about being in the negative state of mind, because that's actually getting you even further down that spiral of negative feelings, because I'm not able to be like satisfied with having it the way that I want. So, if then I'm struggling to feel in another way anyway. So if you can just like you said, Dean, look for that neutral place where it's okay. Something is passing through me. It's just the way it is right now.
And just and to not be upset about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to be upset about whether you're having negative thoughts or positive thoughts. You're just having thoughts.
Yeah. It's one of the biggest jokes, I think, in the three principles, that when we're in what we feel is a nice space, things are going well and we're having a nice day, and well, we don't question it. We don't go running around like a headless chicken going, well, what's wrong with me? I need to go and see the doctor because this, I'm just happy and I don't even know why I'm happy. How's this happening? It doesn't make any sense. But we do exactly the opposite. That's exactly what we do, rather, when we're feeling low. We're looking for a way of fixing the low feelings, instead of just understanding that it's the natural fluctuating nature of thought. We might not like the feelings that come from those thoughts, but they will pass, because everything does. So I think outside the context of, like you said, Mia, looking for a nicer feeling, of course we want a nicer feeling. But when we start thinking about good experiences and bad experiences, or nice experiences and awful experiences, we're back in judgment again. We're making a judgment call about our experience. Whereas if we see past that, then we're not judging anymore. So it's more like we return. The beautiful state of neutrality that I talk about, it's that state of authenticity and sincerity. Because when we meet people in our lives, in the world, we know within the first few seconds, because we intuitively can feel it, whether someone is being completely authentic and sincere, or whether someone's anxious or someone's nervous, or whatever state of mind. We can usually feel that, can't we? I mean, I've done a lot of work with kids, and I used to love asking the kids this. I'd say, okay, when a teacher walks into a room, do you know, do you have a sense when they're being authentic and sincere? And the kids, or even if they don't really fully understand the way I'm speaking about it, they know what I mean, and they all say, yes, we can tell. And I said, conversely, can you tell when a teacher comes in the room and they're not happy, they're upset before you even start the lesson? And yeah, they can tell. We all can. And I think that what we return to when we are no longer judging our own thinking is we return to that state of authenticity and sincerity. And you can't really go wrong if you're authentic and sincere. You really can't go wrong in life. And I think that's a really nice place to be.
Yeah. iPhone raised your hand, but I know it's you, Christian, so.
Oh, I had, yes, I'm iPhone today. Hello, Mia and Dean. Thank you for having this webinar. I just want to tell a little bit about my negative thoughts and how I've handled this, because I've also been in some different difficult circumstances lately. And I've noticed over the last few months that also with the 3P that I'm not my thoughts. I look at it as in this period, I look at it as I'm observing my thoughts rather than cultivate it or make it grow or put energy into it. Has this been 2 years ago? I think I've been lying in the gutter, rolling around, feeling sorry and have to fix myself. But as we all know in this, when we meet this 3P, it's a lot about metaphors, as you also say, Dean and Mia. And I've just had the last few months, like I'm in my own Formula 1 race, where earlier I would have been in one of the cars and driving around and in the mind spin. But now even though the hurricane is moving around and the cars are moving fast, I'm in the middle and watching it and having the trust that there's something behind me catching me no matter what. And as you also say that it's just for a while, wake up in the morning and think that life is shit. And then you have a friend or something you call, not to talk about your story, but to point in the 3P direction. And then go out and just make coffee. And then a few hours later, run 10 kilometers, because that's what I do. I go for the conversation, like Sidney says. That's just, that's why I'm here and walking around in the 3P. I don't know if you call it world, but I think it's very much important that the thoughts are coming. You cannot do anything, but you can observe it or you can cultivate it. And for me, that's been a blessing, an enlightenment. So I think it's talking to what you say. So I agree with you upon it. So yeah. So yes, that was just my sharing.
Thank you. Well, I think the best example of pure neutrality is to look at a newborn baby. A newborn baby doesn't care if it has any moods. either they're very content, happy, very upset, but they don't yet have thinking about their thinking. It just passes through them and it shifts like this. And the more that we can see that that's the natural state, just have moods passing through us. We don't have to have thinking about the moods. Like you said, Dean, it's not like when I'm content and happy, I walk around, what the fuck? What's happening here? Why am I this happy? Because we're just busy living. And there, from that place, it's just like everything's easy. But when we have another state of mind, like if we're caught up in negative feelings and thinking, from that place, it looks like something's wrong, but it's the same. It's just a mood passing. And every time I try to change that mood, it's like I'm digging a hole even further down. So for me, it was very helpful to think of a newborn baby, just to see that mood passing through. And the baby's fine with not being fine. They don't care. They don't have thinking about their thinking. Yeah.
I love that example, because the other thing about babies is the only time they are upset, really, because all they're looking around the world and absorbing what they're seeing and hearing, which they've been doing for 9 months anyway. Inside the womb, they've been listening to what's happening in the world through rather muffled ears, but they're still listening to what's happening out there. And I think that the only time, and I always think this is hilarious, like the only time a baby's really upset is if the baby's hungry, the baby's ill, the baby's tired, or the baby's messed their nappy and it needs changing. So they're going to squeal and squawk until you do something about it. Now, as adults, we get that bit down. We get potty trained. So we don't need anyone to change our nappies anymore. But we are still subject to all of those other aspects. You know, if people can get, what did a client say to me recently? I know this, apparently this is a common term in the modern way. Angry, yeah, I'd never come across this before. I thought, I know lots of people that get hangry. They just need to eat. That's all they need. And then they won't cry. And it's so all of those, if we're hungry, if we're tired, if we're sick, the body's just telling us, you need to eat food, you need to take a rest, you need to look after yourself, you need some care. So as Bill Pettit always describes it, he says, these are just, when we're having a hard time, it's like the universe knocking on the door. This is a love letter from the universe to remind us there is something we need to do. We're in the form. So we still have to take care of this bit. We can't just expect that we can do anything we want and the body will be fine, because it won't. It's required, it requires water and exercise and good nutrition. And I think that also Sid points to this in terms of meditation. He says, when we're looking at meditation, we're looking for the state of no thought. But he said, but the state of no thought is impossible. But we're looking for the state of no personal thinking. And that's what you're describing, Mia. That's what babies are doing. They have thought, but they have non-verbal thought. So once we learn language and we start adding, then we start adding judgments to everything that we see and do, good, bad, ugly, indifferent. But babies can't do that because they don't have any concept of what any of those things, they don't know. Children don't even know what stress is. They don't know what anxiety is. They don't know what hatred is. They don't know what any of the negative states that we can describe as adults. They have to learn them. We had to learn them. How crazy is that? That we had to learn to understand those, to create a concept around an experience that is as fleeting as a cloud across the sky. That's how simple it is. We just need to get out of our own way. We're just in our own way a lot of the time. And when we stop doing that, things just get easier.
Dorte?
Hi. Okay, so I just need to understand. So if this baby is in great danger or is maybe part of an accident or whatever, and it starts crying, is that something it learned or is it an automatic reaction?
No, that's a natural reaction.
Yeah.
Absolutely natural.
So if you have something really bad happening to you, isn't it natural to feel upset about it? That's what I mean. I mean, that's not thought, is it?
Well, it's coming from thought originally, because you have to think about the thing that you don't like. Otherwise, you can't have a feeling that you don't. See, often people talk about, some scientists say, feelings come first. Sometimes they say sometimes feelings come first, and then thoughts. Then you have thoughts about them. And some say no, thought comes first and feeling comes after. I don't think either is actually true, because I think that feeling and thought arise in the same moment. It's like a perfect marriage. So it's possible and quite likely in a conflict situation that you might feel, you'll feel upset. What our natural instinct in those moments is usually to move away from conflict, isn't it? That's the most natural thing in the world. So I think that, I know even with traditional psychology, if someone is in a dangerous relationship situation, then the best thing they can do is leave. And I remember when I was working with Roger Mills, he said, sometimes, Dean, he said, we had to do things that we really didn't want to do. We're working in, housing communities with a lot of violence, a lot of drugs, a lot of death. And sometimes we would actually have to get the authorities to take the children away from the parents that were being abusive. But, he said, if we saw through our programs that those parents were actually reformed, and believe me, you can tell when someone's reformed. It's not, you can't fake being reformed. It's like you can't fake authenticity and sincerity. You can't, can you? Just can't fake it. So if those parents started living better lives, Roger would go out of his way to do anything to get those children back with those parents. And I think that it still sends shivers up my spine. It's such a beautiful thing to know that it's not just someone taking someone's children away because they're doing something bad. It's giving those parents the opportunity to wake up, become better people, return to who they really probably wanted to be all their lives, and then solve the situation by helping the authorities to allow those children to return to safe parents, to kind, gentle, authentic parents. Does that help?
Yeah, I mean, so what you say, I mean, I've also studied Tibetan Buddhism for many years, and they talk about the samsara and how we all humans are, going through a lot of hardship, and how that actually makes you want to strive for a better way of living, because if you didn't go through all those hardships, you would just be ignorant in a way, right? But I mean, I still think that I think some people go through more hardship than others, right? And I can't help thinking sometimes when I listen to 3P and especially here in Denmark, where we're quite privileged people, most of us, right? I'm thinking, does it also apply for like third world countries, where people are suffering big time? I mean, do you even have the capacity to still believe that it's something good, that the life, how do you say, the spirit of life wants something good here? Because sometimes it doesn't end well. We all know, right? So, and I just can't, I'm still not convinced that there is justice for all. Yeah.
Well, can I say two things?
Hmm?
I'll say two things about that. Firstly, I would say that I haven't actually been to any third world countries, but I have had a lot of friends that have done work and traveled in third world countries. And the feedback that I've had from everyone is that they find the happiest people they've ever met in their lives, because they, not just because they have so little, but because they make the most of every day they can, because circumstances are so difficult. So they still have, without an understanding of the three principles, they still have that innate health inside them, which guides them. And I think that one other thing that crossed my mind as you were speaking, because I know that we're looking at a world at the moment which is not moving in a good direction. But let me tell you a story, because I met a lovely young woman from Ukraine. I'm sure she wouldn't mind me telling the story. I'm not going to mention her name. Okay? And she said to me, Dean, she said, I was lying under my bed when the Russian bombs were coming in. They were getting blown in the air. You know, they have these air defenses, so they explode in the air rather than on buildings most of the time. She said, I was lying under the bed with my daughter and my husband, I think her husband. And she said, Dean, I knew that if we died, we would all be okay. And I thought, that's just incredible, incredible that she has seen the joy of life to the degree that she knows that even if she dies in a conflict zone, she will be okay. So I think that there's, as Mia has been pointing out, it's innate health. Everyone has it. It doesn't matter. Circumstances can look like they should make a difference, but honestly, at the heart of every single human being, we have the same capacity for goodness, for seeing the good in the world, seeing the good in people. So I hope that helps to some degree. It blew my mind to hear a story like this. Really, it did. And she's a beautiful, beautiful human being. I said, oh, wow, she gave the best hugs you could ever imagine anyone ever giving, you know, and I just thought, this is someone who has a lot of love for the world, doesn't seem to have any hate, which is, wow, how beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mia, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I actually traveled both in India and Thailand and seen extreme poverty. And you're right, they are. I also saw some sincere happiness. How do you say? But for instance, in India, they're very spiritual, so that's what gives them hope, that they're part of this, all these deities or whatever it's called, you know. So yeah. Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure.
I just wanted to add that what I heard you ask first, daughter, is that, is it a natural reaction when something happens to you that you get frightened or scared, or, and as I see it, yes, it is. And it's totally normal to get frustrated and sad and to feel grief and everything. But that isn't the issue, because you were meant to feel those feelings. The issue is when you fight not to feel that way. I remember when I was pregnant with my first child, I lost my best friend to cancer. And I was so extremely sad that I, at some points, thought, maybe I will harm my baby in my tummy with being so sad, because this is extreme to feel this sadness. And I thought, I will never become happy again. I will never laugh again. I can't see light in anything. And that was despite being pregnant and really wanting that baby. But everything was dark in that place. But the thing was, even though that it was so dark, it was a relief to cry and feel grief. I wasn't struggling with feeling that way because I needed to. It was a natural reaction to losing my best friend. But when I had the thinking about maybe I'm hurting my baby, so I shouldn't feel this way, that was when I was suffering. When I wasn't in that thinking, I was just in grief, frustrated, really, really sad. But that wasn't hard. That was just the natural way of like dealing with something really terrible happening. But it was when I was thinking that I shouldn't feel this way, so I need to do something not to feel this sad and not to, that was when I was really suffering and hurting, and my life became even harder to be in. But I was just really sad. And I didn't know 3P at the time. And the most amazing thing is now, when I look back, I cannot say that day I became happy again, or that day everything cleared up, but it just did. And at some point, I did laugh again. And when I was standing in that very dark place, I could not see it. I couldn't imagine me ever like laughing down into my tummy again. I couldn't even imagine being a mother of anybody or doing any good in the world again, because I was just in a really, really dark place. But suddenly that innate health made me laugh again and made me see that there are light again. And it was just in small cracks maybe in the beginning. But I remember at one point I went to the cemetery every day. It was like I needed to go there just to cry my eyes out because I didn't know where to go with it. And suddenly it struck me, I haven't been there now for half a year. And then suddenly that was a problem, because then I thought, well, maybe I'm not like mourning in the right way. And then it was just, no, it just cleared up. And that doesn't mean that I don't love my best friend like I did and that I don't think about her, because I do every day. But it's like that grief just melted and it took another form. And now that form is just love inside of me. And that very heavy heart is not there anymore. But I cannot say that I did something to change it. It was just a natural state of being in a very hard place, and that cleared up. I don't know if that's helpful. I just thought of that when you spoke.
Here, yes, thank you, of course. I just think my problem is that I'm actually I think my greatest feeling right now is fear. I'm very fearful of what's gonna become of me because I have all these problems, and when I listen to 3P and I listen to you now, I know there's also feelings of trust and love and hope and stuff inside me, but it's really difficult to balance. Can I trust this? Can I trust that this is gonna lead me? Because the fear is constantly, present, and I think that the biggest problem for me right now is to balance, to find out, okay, it's okay to feel negative thoughts, but for how long? you know when is it too much? And it would certainly be much easier if I knew, okay, I can do it 15 minutes a day. That's it, daughter, or something. But it's like, I don't know when it's too much, you know. So, yeah. I don't know what I mean to say with this, but that it's just, yeah, that was my thought. So,
well, I think it's worth keeping in mind. This has been incredibly useful for me over the years since I first met Sid, which is Sid made it pretty clear that, and even science does point towards this. There's an author called Candace Pert who wrote a book called Molecules of Emotion. She was one of the co-discoverers of what they misnamed neuropeptides, because they thought they found them in the brain. They thought, oh, these are from the brain, so they called them neuropeptides. But then they found they were all over the body. So there's peptides in the big toe that's sending signals to the brain. So they're not neuropeptides, they're just peptides, and they're running up and down the body all of the time, chasing signals everywhere. But Sid made it really clear that, so science is saying that we're hardwired for bliss, right? That's the physical body, the mind is actually hardwired for bliss. So anything else is an aberration to that. So I think that Sid endeavored to make it clear that our natural state is one of peace, is one of a quiet mind. That's our natural state. So anything else is what he called an illusion. So when we're having, sure, it's, as just Mia described with her story, when we're having extreme circumstances, we will experience the feelings that go with that, and that's completely natural. How long that lasts is completely individual to each human being. So in terms of when we're feeling okay, that's our natural state. When we're feeling in a negative state of mind, we have created an illusion because we're believing thoughts that the universe has no longer got our back. It hasn't got our back anymore. We're in trouble. We're going to lose something. We're going to lose somebody. It's you know, we're not being protected. But whereas actually that's an illusion. The universe always has our back at all times. And you know, he said even death. Don't even be frightened of death. He said death's nothing to be frightened of. He said when you die, you'll find out. So we all still have to find that one out. But I hope that helps. It's just so that was the, you know, the joke, like I said earlier, the big 3P joke is that we don't go running around questioning when we're feeling good, because that's our natural state. So we don't look at it, we don't question it, because it's natural. And isn't it, or is it surprising at all that we question the negative feelings because it's unnatural to us to actually feel that way? We're not wired to feel that way. You know, the whole physiological joke about the face, that it takes more muscles to frown than it does to smile. Well, there's a reason for that. Because when you're not smiling, your body's going, well, there's something wrong here. Bear with me a second. I've just got I'm looking, my power's diminishing and I'm not plugged in. Bear with me.
Was that helpful, Dorte?
Also, yeah, I really like Dean's way of telling about his understanding, and I think also because he comes from this very spiritual background in Buddhism and stuff, I can connect with that a lot, and I think that's possibly the most powerful part of listening to you, both of you, is that how I feel, the comfort, the comfort of knowing that 3P is the truth for me, you know. So, and I'm glad that you can remind me. I'm very grateful for that. Well, thank you for that. Yeah.
Thank you. Christian?
Yes, I'm back again. I'm just being inspired by your thoughts and words. And I just have to say that, what was it that I had to say? Just a minute. Oh, yes, it was. The one thing I've learned in the last week, I think, it's the way of walking through life with your eyes open, instead of walking through your life with eyes open sometimes and then eyes shut. And here I think about, been talking about how habits is and how needs are, the simplicity in that. That's a whole new subject I'm opening here, but it's very, what do you call it, enlightening to know that when you start, like you are, Dorte, start asking questions about how my state of mind is and how my design is, then you just have to keep being curious about it. And then stay in the conversation. I have the feeling that I like to stay in the conversation because it removes my thoughts or my thinking. So I stay in this calm place in me. But the metaphor of not try to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why am I keeping these negative thoughts? Why am I taking this candy? Why am I? Just, I just noticed the last week I'm having thinking and thoughts about that. And that's just be curious. And that's the lightness about it. There's nothing right or wrong. I've learned about the fear. Then every time the fear is coming to me, it's as you said earlier, Dean, it's a love letter from the heart, telling me that I'm traveling away from myself in my thoughts. I'm creating over dramatized thoughts about what is going to happen, and not very, very, what do you call it? Not often is my thinking the results that happening in the future. So I'm just trying really to observe. So having your eyes open for what is happening. Sometimes I'm just grabbing out because it's an habit. And then I'm better now, I think, to just realize what is it. And it's okay if I realize it with open eyes instead of with closed eyes. So I can drink that wine or have a bowl of Koldskål with kammerjunkers. As we've been around a few times, Mia. So it's about having your eyes open, I would just say. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I think that it's a good topic. Habits is a really good topic to explore because everyone has habits. And yeah, when we start recognizing that we're in a habit, then we might think, do I want to do this habit anymore? Because one of the things, even when we look at something which appears to be incredibly serious, such as addiction, well, when I was working with Roger Mills, you couldn't be in a room with Roger without ending up having a really good belly laugh, because there was no way that anyone would get away with getting too serious. It just never happened with Roger. It was just not possible. And he said, well, look, the thing about addiction is addiction isn't what we think it is. And I think what he meant by that was that addiction is just a habit. And what is a habit? A habit is created through thought. And it's a habit that we think that we can't stop. That's all addiction really is, because they say that they say cigarettes are harder to get off than crack cocaine. I wouldn't know. I've never tried either. I'm not making any advice here. But even if you are coming off of cigarettes, apparently when your body is 7 days clean, there's no more chemical dependency. It's just thought after that. The body is completely clean of all substances within 7 days. So what is the habit? The habit is thought. It has to be thought. It's not And, you know, okay, some people, they want to do something with their hands because they've been doing it for years. So they want to do something with their fingers. But it's still habits. So if we start recognizing our own habits, then they either dissolve by themselves. That's what can quite often happen, is that habits that we've had for years will just disappear, and we won't even know they're gone until one day we think, oh, I don't do that anymore. It's never even occurred to me. And we have a thought that goes, oh, that's interesting. So habits is another way of describing our conditioning. And you'll have all heard this expression. I don't know what it is in Danish. I'm just beginning to learn Danish, but I honestly wish I knew as much Danish as you know English, and then I'd be absolutely fine. But you've probably heard the expression, oh, that person, they just see life through rosy tinted lenses. Yeah, have you heard this one? Right. Well, I often say to people, well, what color are yours? Because we've all got lenses. You know, are you wearing black ones, or are you wearing pink ones, or what? You know, what color are yours? Because when we use that expression, all we're really saying is, oh yeah, you don't believe the person because you think, well, you just got a fairyland view of the world. It's not real. Get into the real world. Well, but we can only see the world that we create through our own thinking. That's the world we are living in. We're not living in the same world. None of us are living in the same world, because we can only exist in the world that we create. And again, coming back to habits, when we stop doing that, when we start losing some of those habits, especially the habits of thought, guess what happens? The mind gets quiet, and it's a lovely place to be. And from that place of a quiet mind is where the trust that Dora is talking about getting. How do we get that trust? You don't need to get it. It comes. It comes free of charge. And it comes with the experience of finding ourselves falling back into our natural state, the state of no thought from our personal mind, which is only habitual thinking, isn't it? It's not anything else. It's not real. It's only as real as we believe it to be real. And that's why when we're having a hard time, it looks pretty real. I remember doing some work in a big hospital in Sydney in Australia. And a nurse in the training, she said, oh, Dean, well, what about people that are having a psychotic experience? And I said, well, their experience is as real to them as yours is to you right now, sitting in this room listening to me talk. That's it. It's the same experience. It's 100% real to them. Even though we can look in from the outside and say that person's deluded, well, in some ways, we're doing that, but we're not doing it in perhaps to the extreme extent that someone who we say is having a psychotic episode. We're still making it up. It's not, it's no less real than the experience they're having. Their experience is no less real than our experience, if that makes sense. So your habits is a fascinating topic, and our conditioning is a fascinating topic, because it just starts to disperse, disappear. If you know the expression, these things literally stop showing up on our radar. And then one day we have a thought, oh, wow. Or we have a thought, wow, I haven't thought of that person for a long time. And, you know, in the past, it might have been a negative thought. And now it's just, oh, well, it's pretty neutral. What a wonderful life we get to live. As Sid said, this is the best life ever. We only need a tiny little bit of this understanding to start living the best life ever. How magic's that? I think it's we've been given the greatest gift in the world. Well, I call it the second greatest gift, because the first greatest gift is this. We've been given this opportunity to be in the form and experience beautiful relationships and friendships and experience nature and the universe. You know, we're the universe given eyes and looking back at itself in awe. We're not separate from it, are we? You might think we are. That's just thought again. That old trickster.
Christian?
Yes, I've just got a little inspired again because a few weeks ago, I'm not that good at sitting by the sea because the thinking. But a few weeks ago, I sat by the sea and I watched the waves. And for the first time, I think that I realized that I looked at the waves like the thoughts are coming. And then there are a few waves, what do we call, rapidly after each other. And I thought that was thinking. And then the other day at the education I'm at, we talked about habits, just like the waves, because I'm choosing my habits in different situations when I have this fear. So it's much easier for me to understand the simplicity of that. Both, as you say, Dean, it's thoughts all the time, and it's like the waves. So I choose which habit I want to use, but I use it in that moment because I have the fear of something or the anxiety of something, and that's make it so much easier for me to look at my habits in a way that's just like the thoughts. So yeah, it was just what I just thought about.
Thank you. Maya? Maya, you raised your hand. Maya, we cannot hear you.
There's technical problems. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Loud and
Now
clear.
you can. Okay. I can't make my video work either, but now I'm here. In voice and in spirit. Well, I'm new to this 3P, and I've been reading a lot of Sydney Banks's books, and I've been reading Marie-Louise's books, and I've been listening to your podcast, and I've been really like absorbing this good feeling of being alive, and it feels as though the philosophy is a bit different than other things I've been studying, but yeah, I got the realization a couple of years ago that meditating was actually more of a state of being. So why not just meditate every day, all day, instead of like sitting down 15 minutes a day? So I feel like I kind of already understand it. But on the other hand, I really wanna understand it more, or like I'm curious, or I really want to just be a part of like a community that gets it. But I'm kind of wondering, it's more why I'm here right now with the thought of going to your retreat, because it feels weird to actually talk about it, because it's more of a state of being than it is a state of thinking. And I feel like the format we are having right now is a place where we're thinking a lot. And I've just been thinking, maybe I shouldn't go on a retreat. Maybe I should stop reading all these books and ponder about the philosophy and just go and be with my kids. Kinda. Does that sound weird? Or like, where should I go with all this curiosity if it actually feels like I kind of already got it, but I still want more?
Do you want to take that one, Mia, or would you like me to say something?
You can say something. I'm just, I'm sitting with it.
Well, I think that I would say both yes and no. I think that I think that when you're in the good feeling, that's when we make our best decisions. So you as an individual have to decide, do I want to go on the retreat, and wait for a quiet mind answer rather than an intellectual answer, because there's lots of intellectual reasons why you should go, and there's probably just as many intellectual reasons why not to go. But I think what's more important than any of that is allowing your mind to get quiet. Of course, to you, to everyone, it is the most natural thing in the world, because, and I think I like your question, because what's been occurring to me is that the idea that there's something to do is just an idea. So why do we come together? Why do we create retreats? Why do we create day events and webinars? Because we're creating a community where we bring our energy together, and the energy that we bring together ends up being more energy than our own individual energy. It creates something bigger, and it creates more harmony in the world. Now, I've been working with facilitators over the years, and I always say to people, never, never, never underestimate the effect that we, even if you don't want to be a facilitator, the effect that we are having upon the world. As I said earlier, even seeing a small amount of this, I mean, there's no large or small really anyway, it's just, that's just a metaphor. Just beginning to see this is a falling backwards. It's a remembering of who we really are. It's beginning to access our natural state, our state of meditation, our beautiful state of neutrality. So that's why we come together. We come together to create community, because we create a bigger energy that has its impact upon the world. So I think when I work with facilitators, I say, yes, don't just read loads and loads of books, watch loads and loads of videos, and listen to loads and loads of podcasts. Spend time with your children, spend time with your family, go out there in the world and experience your life, because that's where the magic lies. I hope that, does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it totally makes sense. And I love the idea of getting caught up with the idea that the thoughts has the answers, and then seeing that you're already going along with the thought row. that actually the answer is always like, but do you want to? Does it feel right? And just, yeah, come back to that instead of thinking about if it's the right thing or if it's not, and why it's the right thing or not. Just like, does it feel right to be in this webinar? Then stay. If it doesn't, then leave. It's fine. Yeah, so it really makes sense. Thank you.
No, my pleasure. I mean, something else that Sid always said, and everyone who's listened to Sid at all will know this. He always said, listen for a feeling. Now, he didn't just mean when you're in a webinar, when you're in a training, when you're on a retreat, just listen for a feeling, because the feeling is always going to guide you in the right direction. Wisdom only ever guides us in the right direction. And I have to say that in the last year and a half, I've been a nomad for about a year and a half. I've just finally got an apartment now, and I'm sort of moving in, but I'm at a friend's place still at the moment. I've got all my stuff there. I spent 2 days now unpacking all my boxes. Just complete and utter mess at the moment. It's an organized mess. But I have found that more and more and more, I've been falling back into that beautiful feeling, to the extent that a lot of the time I just feel so full up, if you know what I mean, with a really beautiful feeling, so full up that, you know, the next expression is that it comes out through my eyes, and sometimes it just happens spontaneously. I remember when I came to Denmark, I think at the beginning of August, I love flying and I love takeoff. So ever since I first flew, I like the bit when it's going along the runway at several hundred kilometers an hour, and suddenly the nose of the plane goes upwards. So if you lean out, if you're sitting in the armchair, if you lean out, you notice the plane's, you're looking up, you're not looking straight down anymore. And I always like that bit. So, and I just happened to look, and the plane was banking. And then this man, I don't know what he was looking at, but he turned his head and he was looking up at something. And he had dark skin and a really dark hair, a really beautiful haircut. And I just looked at him and I had tears come into my eyes, and I thought, there's so much beauty in the world everywhere when our eyes are open. And I just thought, and that's what I mean. I just get this feeling of almost overwhelm of this absolute beauty. And in that feeling comes a sense of absolute certainty, which I have lived with pretty much anyway since I first met Roger Mills and then Sydney Banks. And I love living with that thing. I know that the universe not only has my back, it has your back too, everyone's back. And there's nothing you need to do in order to have that experience or get that trust. As soon as your mind is quiet, the trust, it just comes just like that. And the life will keep showing you. When you listen to your wisdom, and as Sid said, wisdom always comes with a good feeling. When you listen to your wisdom, which is always talking to you, it's just, sometimes we're so busy living our lives, we're not listening. But when we listen, magic begins to unfold everywhere, all the time. And life is full of blessings. It really is. I hope that helped.
I was just, because do I know that place from not knowing and wanting to know? So what should I do? Because I both have it this way and that way. And I can see that every time I'm struggling with that, it's from up here. It's from thinking. And some of the best thing that has happened to me with knowing the 3 principles is not knowing and accepting not knowing as an answer, because I thought there was only like you have to know or you have to look for the knowing. And now not knowing, I don't know whether to go to that retreat, or I don't know. As long as I'm in that place, I'm curious and I'm open, and I'm able to hear that wisdom talking to me, saying, go there or don't do that, go to the webinar, do you feel like it, whatever. But as long as I'm looking, I cannot hear it. So for me, the thing to accept, I don't know, as an answer is the best thing ever. Because from that place, everything is possible and there is no right or wrong. But I can just be curious and open and receiving. So whatever comes from here, from wisdom, I don't know, but I cannot find the answer up here in my thinking. So if you find yourself in that place, not knowing what is the right thing to do, or should I go there? Well, sit back. You just don't know yet, but you will, as long as you're comfortable enough with the not knowing.
It makes sense. And I can't figure out how to unraise my hand either. the techniques are really...
I can do that for you. I can do that.
Thank you. And thank you for your answers.
You're welcome. Tools?
Hey guys.
Hi.
No, I just wanted to reply to what Maya was saying. And the first thing was what you also said, Dean, listening for a feeling. And I remember Sydney Banks had this tape where he says that as soon as you get this feeling, you can take the tape out of the tape recorder and throw it out the window. And the next thing is, when I go to these community meetings, retreats, or 3P coffee or high school, the first thing I notice is that I basically leave all my thinking in the coat room. And then I can just be me without my thinking. And just being me without my thinking is basically, going back as a child and just playing on the playground. So if I'm hungry, I'll go get something to eat. And if I'm sleepy, I'll go sleep an hour. I'm not controlling anything. I'm just happy playing. And in that process, I had a talk with a woman yesterday, and the way she said it, it's like you grow an extra heart chamber. because it feels like that you can love more. So you expand your consciousness, and like you said on the plane, you see how beautiful people are. So that's what I get when I go to these retreats. And I highly recommend it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charles. I love the idea of the playground, because it's just, yeah, life just becomes more joyous. You get to you do get to play again, which is fantastic. So I remember when I first met Roger Mills, and then I think a couple of weeks later, my younger brother was training to be a druid. So we went I was living in the UK then, and we went to Stonehenge around the time of the summer solstice, and he was doing his training all day. So I was just playing in the town, just going around from shop to shop. And I honestly have to say, I felt like about 18 again, just talking to this person and that person, and ended up helping this guy out for the whole day in a shop, just, selling and just just playing. And I think that, like I said earlier about Roger Mills, you couldn't be in a room with Roger Mills without something really silly, happening. He just wouldn't let it get too serious. If anyone did, he'd either call a coffee break to break the cycle, and then we'd come back to something new, or he would throw in a joke somewhere. Oh, it was hilarious. I really wish you could have met him, but there is footage of him. So yeah, it's a playground. That's back to what Mia was saying about babies. Well, what do kids really want to do? All kids want to do is just like Trolls described. You want to go out, you want to play, you eat when you're hungry, you lie down when you're tired, and you go to bed when you have to. The rest of the time you're just out having fun. And I think that as adults, we can forget that. We can forget that we're supposed to be playing. This is our life. We're supposed to enjoy it. Sure, there are bad things happening, and sometimes we do suffer because of circumstances. Let me just tell a quick story, especially about when we lose someone we really love, because it is individual, and this is because each one of us is living in our completely separate realities. And when we can see this, when we can see that every single person is living in their own reality, it makes it a lot easier to get by in life, knowing that every single person is doing the best they can. And this is a story, and I'm sure he won't mind me telling, it's from Jack Pransky. Now, Jack Pransky had a really good relationship with his father. And his father was called Kermit, not Kermit the Frog, but Kermit. It was, I guess, a German name. And he had this wonderful relationship, and his father got sick, and his father died quite suddenly. And he said that he was, because of their deep and beautiful relationship, he was beside himself for 24 hours. He said he was crying, he felt sick, he was very low. And then he woke up the next day and he said, Dean, the only thing that went through my mind was all of the wonderful experiences I had with this amazing man. And he said, I couldn't feel sad anymore. I just felt joy at the fact that I'd had a wonderful father and a beautiful time with him. And so that was his experience. And so, as I said, it's individual to each of us. There's no right and wrong in how we respond to the circumstances that life throws at us. It's just we respond in the way that makes sense to us in the moment. So be careful with those perhaps habitual thoughts that come up when we think we should have a certain response to a certain circumstance. We'll have the response that we have, and we need to trust that. Just trust that the one we're having is the most natural one in the world for us as individuals.
just have 3 minutes left, and does anybody have something on their mind that they need to ask or share or something? Now is the time to.
3 minutes, time goes so quick.
It does.
And that's something else that we will explore on the retreat, which is the illusion of time, because it's one that I think that can really, really help when people get stuck with states of mind. It can really, really help with that.
Yeah.
So we will be exploring that. No last minute thoughts, no last minute questions.
Yeah, Emilie?
Yeah, hi. I just got in a few minutes ago, so I just hear the last words you said, Dean. But I just wondering what Trolls said before. Like he goes, he left his thought and thinking when he come into a room with 3 people. But I do the same, but I had the difficult to do the same when I'm with people who is not 3P, no to 3P, or what's it called? Well, I don't know if they know about 3P, and have the same jeg ved ikke, indstilling. Jeg ved ikke, hvad det hedder på engelsk.
Prøv at sige, hvad du gerne vil sige på dansk bare.
Jamen, at man går ind med den samme indstilling, når man går ind i et rum med folk, man ikke ved, om kender til de 3 principper, frem for når man går ind i et rum, hvor man ved, folk kender til de 3 principper.
So entering a room with the same like state of mind, not concerned about if people know about the 3 principles or not knowing. So because that can be difficult, as Troels just said, entering a room and just leaving your thinking out in the coat room, other than when entering a room full of people who don't know, then everything is on your mind.
Yeah.
So,
Have you a good tip?
I don't know if it's a tip, but I can say for myself that I can totally recognize that. And I can see that for me, it's varying in where I am in my state of mind. Because if I'm caught up in that, it's my unsecure thoughts of not being able. Either it can be that I want I'm too eager to get them to see something, or that I am maybe caught up in a thought that, what if they don't understand me? Or what if I'm misunderstood? Or what if I'm what if they ask questions that I cannot answer? So it's my unsecure thinking that's I'm getting caught up in, and I know that when I'm together with people who knows of the 3 principles, that if I get that, they will point me in another direction, so I'm more calm and I know that everything is fine. And that can be the thing that like stands in my way of leaving the thinking in the coat room with people not knowing, because I get caught up in my unsecure thinking as well. So it's just, I don't take it too seriously. As just, because when I take it seriously, that's when it really makes a mess. Yeah.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, of course.
What I would say is something that I always say to teachers. Well, I say to people generally about teaching, that if you love kids, teaching is easy, right? That was one of the first things that I saw when I came across the principles. I realized that the only thing that I really need to do was to love the kids, and then teaching became so much easier. And I think with the world, when we step outside, if you love people, it makes it a lot easier. If we can love the world in the same way that we love our children and we love our families, then I think that stepping outside, it becomes so much easier. And just to remember that every single person that we meet in our lives, that we have the fortune to cross paths with, we are going to have an effect on them, whether we want to or whether we don't, whether we say something or whether we don't, we're still going to have an effect. Because this might even sound far-fetched or bombastic, but when we have seen this, when we start to see this, the transformation that takes place in us is then becomes a mirror to the soul of literally every human being we ever meet. And so there's something that they can't misunderstand, which is who they really are. And when they see it in us, they feel it in themselves. And that's all we need to remember. Just walk amongst the beautiful world with all the beautiful people, knowing that every single one of them has the same capacity for love, goodness, and understanding. They have innate health too. And if we look for innate health, that's what we're going to find. It's there. It's in everyone.
Yeah.
Lovely to see you, by the way.
You too, Dean. Thank you. It's just what I needed to hear from where I just come from today. So thanks.
Pleasure.
Vores, last comment.
Maybe I could elaborate on the children playing in the playground. I mean, you don't see a lot of adults if you go outside playing in the playground. So that's basically what happens when you're on a free pre-retreat. Everybody's just kids playing in the playground. But if you go to a work, there's adults on the playground.
Yeah.
Taking their thinking too seriously.
Yep.
So true. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. It was so nice seeing all of you. And if you have any questions or anything regarding the retreat, please do send me or Dean an email, and we will do our best to answer you and guide you, and hope to see so many of you again, because it has been such a pleasure to stay in this conversation with you. So have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Lots of love.